everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, reacting to the Toronto Raptors 119-90 win against the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, we have a later upload coming today. We're sorry for the late upload, but certainly a game we have to talk about because this game was very exciting as a Toronto Raptors fan. Now, the Toronto Raptors are a phenomenal team this season. The Memphis Grizzlies are very solid as well, but they've struggled as of late, and it's expected the Toronto Raptors are going to win some games by a blowout margin, and usually these games aren't too exciting. The Raptors get a bit hot, the better team wins, and it's unexciting throughout. But this wasn't the case for this game, as it wasn't close, but there was a lot of stuff going on, and let's just get straight into it. The first guy that we got to talk about, Danny Green. My goodness, he had himself a game last night, especially in the second half. 24 points for Danny Green, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 8 threes, 8 for 12 from the three-point line. That third quarter especially, he was absolutely on fire. It was reminiscent of when he was in the finals, and him and I believe Gary Neal for the San Antonio Spurs couldn't miss a three against the Miami Heat. It was in that vein, Danny Green's hotness tonight with his three-point stroke, because the Toronto Raptors kept feeding him the ball. They, in the third quarter, they were giving the ball in the corner. It seemed like every possession, and he didn't miss. He barely missed. It was absolutely, it was a spectacle to be seen. Toronto Raptors fans were going wild with the cheers, getting the Danny Green cheers. Post-game, Danny Green was saying how happy he was with the fans, doing all that stuff, and how the Raptors were running plays for him, and he was a bit overwhelmed. So it was just an awesome sight to be seen, because Danny Green, everything that he's done for the Toronto Raptors off the court, like he's a new guy in here. He's barely been here a few months, and he's repping the team like he's been here his whole career. With all of his off the court stuff, with his podcast, how he talks about the team, everything that he does, his teammate involvement. We'll get into more of that later, but he's becoming that sort of Amir Johnson, Bismack Biyombo vibe, where you're not necessarily a superstar like DeMar DeRozan, an alpha player, but a solid player in the rotation that just owns the hearts of Toronto Raptors fans. And that's what Danny Green is becoming. If you see everything he's doing, I think he could be, if he stays with the team for a longer stretch of time, more things happen, he could certainly become one of a Raptors legend, a Raptors favorite. So shout out to Danny Green on his monster performance. It's great to see. He's been definitely our most consistent three-point shooter, maybe outside of Kawhi all season. So I love it when Danny Green has big nights, and it's just really exciting to watch as a Toronto Raptors fan. No guy deserves it more than him, but there's a lot more to talk about in this game. I mentioned the third quarter, which is really exciting. The Toronto Raptors went completely off. I'll talk more about that later, but I think the second biggest storyline tonight, it also involves Danny Green, because maybe he found the sauce. He found the secret stuff to kill the GoDaddy curse. We do not believe in curses, says Danny Green. Shows up to the game 2 nights ago in CJ's PJs, rocking those PJs, and ever since he showed up, CJ Miles looks revitalized, averaging 13 points over his past 2 games. And tonight, especially in the first half, because honestly, Danny Green was so hot in that third quarter, they didn't really need CJ Miles in there and to do too much. But in the first half, CJ really led the charge for the Raptors, scoring a season high in the first half. Didn't do anything in the second half, but 13 points for CJ, two threes, 5 steals from him as well. It was really, really nice to see CJ Miles hit a few shots, go at least have that stretch of minutes where he played very fantastic basketball. For people that don't know, CJ Miles has been struggling all season, and he's a career guy that's been pretty consistent overall as a basketball player. He's a good three-point shooter. He can get to the rim. He could slash. At least he was a bit better at that in the past, but three-point wise, especially the past few seasons, maybe before he was a Toronto Raptor, he was always good at hitting those shots. But last year he kind of took a dip, not nearly as bad as it was this year, but regressed nonetheless. And then this season, it looked like he fell off a complete cliff. His three-point shot has been abysmal. It really hasn't been working out for CJ Miles, and it sucks as a Raptors fan to see a guy that you bring in. We traded Corey Joseph for him, to be a three-point sniper, and he's unable to hit the shots. And I know the broadcast was mentioning it was certainly something that we all noticed. CJ Miles came back this season much leaner. He doesn't look like he looks in a lot better shape this season. Apparently he was putting in a lot of work over the offseason, and we've heard it from multiple sources, the broadcast, teammates, CJ himself said, they're all saying how many hours he put in the offseason, and it really hasn't paid off just yet for CJ Miles. It looks, it's been looking pretty bad for CJ, but the past 2 games, ever since Danny Green rocked those PJs, he's been playing better. He's been looking like a basketball player again, which is really nice to see. And like Danny Green, CJ Miles is a guy that's pretty friendly off the court. He seems like a really good guy, so it's really unfortunate that he's having this tough season. So hopefully CJ can turn it around. And the Toronto Raptors, this is a prime example tonight. When we have some three-point shooting, open, because we get some pretty open looks. It's not like our offense is not creating any good looks for anyone, or we don't have that good of three-point shooters. Because in theory, a lot of our guys, Danny, Fred, CJ, Norm, all these guys, maybe not the most consistent players, but at least in theory should be able to knock it down. And they just haven't really been going down this season like they were of past years. And tonight's a prime example. If those threes are going down, it's over for a lot of NBA teams. Our defense has been fantastic all season. We have a primetime superstar, Kawhi Leonard, who didn't play tonight, but he can get us a bucket down the stretch when we need one. Kyle Lowry's, he's been struggling with his jump shot as well. It's been abysmal. I talked about that in the last podcast, but shooting struggles aside, he's still a phenomenal playmaker, can create for other people, does all the little things that we know Kyle Lowry does, which makes him an all-star, because there's a lot of point guards in the league that can shoot the three and stuff. Kyle Lowry's an all-star for his other stuff on top of the three-point shot. But with all that said, we are a very talented roster. Like that, there's no debating that. We're a top team in the Eastern Conference, but a lot of people, and it's frustrating for a lot of people. I read the comment section and all that, but people are mad, maybe not necessarily mad, but frustrated as a viewer, because a lot of teams can hit threes, but we haven't been able to do that, and it's frustrating to have do all the dirty stuff, do all the gritty stuff, play good defense, swing the ball, have decent offensive flow, even though the offensive ball movement can be better at times. That's on Nick Nurse, but it hasn't been bad. It hasn't been abysmal, but it needs to be a little bit better for sure. But the fact that we're doing all those sorts of things, and then we just can't finish with the open three, we're not hitting the open shots, that's really frustrating, because we're playing so well, and then the points aren't being put on the board, and that's really unfortunate. So if we have a few guys that can close the game with the three-point shots, it's over. If we can consistently hit threes, there's no debate. Even without hitting the threes consistently, you could debate that we are a championship contender. But if we are hitting the threes consistently, all the other facets of this Toronto Raptors team, it's all pieces together so well. If we can just knock down those three-point shots, there's no debate that we can compete with the Golden State Warriors. Maybe not necessarily win, especially if they're bringing in Boogie, all that sorts of stuff. But we are at that level. We're at that tier of team, where we're a championship contender, undebatably. So that's my opinion on it, at least. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree. So maybe if CJ Miles can hit the shots consistently for the rest of the year, Danny Green shows up in the PJs every night. I know it's horribly cold. I'm in Montreal right now, and it's absolutely frigid. It's ridiculously cold, and having friends in Toronto and stuff, I know it's the same over there. So maybe you can't go to the gym in PJs every night, but maybe wear the PJs over the Canada Goose Toronto Raptors players, because it's helping out CJ. If he can hit threes, that's what we need. Regardless, a lot of players had great games tonight. We were up by like 40 points at one point. A lot of people played well. Pascal Siakam had himself a great game, 17 points, 8 rebounds, coming off a game winner. Awesome game for him. A plus minus of 40 for Pascal Siakam tonight. That's ridiculously good. Serge Ibaka, 18 points, 5 rebounds. He's continuing his consistently strong season. And just one thing to say about Serge Ibaka, because there's so many storylines happening with this Toronto Raptors team, and obviously Pascal Siakam is he's stepped up as our second best player with Kyle Lowry's struggles. Maybe not second best with all the things that Kyle Lowry does aside from scoring, and you still probably have to give Kyle Lowry the edge, but nonetheless, Pascal Siakam will probably be our second All-Star if we get 2 this season. But Serge Ibaka kind of gets lost in the fold. Arguably, he's having possibly an all-star type season, which is pretty impressive, especially where he was the past 2 seasons watching him play. Everyone wanted Serge gone. We were saying how Serge got to come off the bench, how he shouldn't be getting in, this main role. But yeah, no, Serge Ibaka has really revitalized his game this season, and I just want to mention that because we've obviously been saying it throughout the year, but it's something I want to mention because I think it's getting swept under the rug a little bit too much. So shout out to Serge Ibaka. Maybe it's the cooking show, but he's been a big baller this season. Same with Norman Powell. CJ Miles got a lot of talk on this podcast tonight, but Norman Powell played better. He had 14 points, 6 of 7 from the field, 2 for 2 from the three-point line. He continues his resurgence. We were talking about the GoDaddy curse for CJ Miles. Norman Powell had it all last year. He kind of had at the beginning of the season, had this injury, and ever since he came back, he's been playing within himself. He's playing like the Norman Powell we wanted him to play like when we gave him that big contract. So He's been consistent. He's been consistent with this play. You know, I've been saying to every podcast, we're just waiting for Norm to kind of revert back into the struggles because it's something we're used to, but he continues to slash. You know, he's finishing around the rim. He's not going in out of control because when Norm drives, it looks like he's being shot out of a cannon. He's so explosive, and usually he's going at so much pace that he can't finish around the rim, and it's unfortunate because the hard part of basketball is getting to the rim, and then the easy part is finishing off the layups. And that's where Norm struggled, but those layups are going in, and when those layups are falling, his three-point shot looks a lot better. So Norman Powell, shout out to Norm. Hopefully he continues the stellar play. You know, the biggest issue with this team all season has been how will the role players step up? The starters have taken a step forward this year, and it seems like the mob has really regressed. And the guys that are supposed to surround Kawhi Leonard and Pascal Siakam and all those guys have really not been there on a night-to-night basis. That's why we struggle against Boston. That's why we lost to Spurs. That's why when we lose, it's usually the blame can be handed to the bench or maybe Kyle Lowry's shooting struggles. That's a common theme with the season. So if the bench can start playing with some consistency, you know, because we have a lot of talented guys. In theory, everyone's capable of doing this on a night-to-night basis. We have so many guys, even if one or two struggle, the rest should be able to pick up the slack. But that hasn't been the case this season, but the past few games, excluding the Boston game, it has been. So hopefully it's something we can maintain, and it makes these games fun to watch, you know, because the Toronto Raptors are a top seed. We know how, you know, we're only worried about the playoffs and those sorts of things. We know Kawhi's going to bring it on a night-to-night basis. We're getting to the point where we know Siakam's going to bring it on a night-to-night basis. So these are the games where we can really watch guys like Norman Powell, CJ Miles, OG Anunoby when he comes back. I should mention OG Anunoby didn't play again tonight, which is really unfortunate. Hopefully everything's going well with him. He's out for personal issues, I believe. So prayers up to OG. Hopefully everything's going well. He's had such a tough season in terms of off-the-court stuff and injuries. So I think OG, once he gets everything together, he'll be fine. You know, people have been trashing on him a little bit. He'll be good. In terms of a basketball player, he's too physically gifted. He works too hard on the defensive end to not be fine. You know, he'll be good as a basketball guy. Just got to hope everything off the court is going well because we aren't in tune with the situation. So prayers up to my guy OG. And before we swing into the segments, there's, you know, the deep bench got some run tonight with such a blowout win. And one guy that actually, we can't even really call him the deep bench in this game because he got 18 minutes. Patrick McCaw, you know, not a nice game on the box score, but watching him play with the eye test, he looked pretty good. You know, I'm not saying that he was necessarily a force to be reckoned with as a scorer or anything like that, but you can tell that he's played in a system with good players. You know, there's a point where CJ Miles had the ball, he was cooking a little bit. Patrick McCaw is a decent three-point shooter. You know, by no means is he a knockdown guy, but he had an open corner three and said, no, I'm going to swing this ball to CJ Miles and give him, he had a shot the possession prior. Let's give it to CJ. Let's him knock it down again. You know, that's a big basketball IQ play right there. Defensively, he seems to always be in the right place. And we mentioned this on the video where we talked about the Patrick McCaw signing. He's not necessarily the most talented guy, especially with the buyout market looming. You know, Patrick McCaw, we probably could have found some more talented players. But the thing about him is he's played in this Golden State Warriors system where he knows how to be on a good team. You know, not necessarily a great team. You know, he knows how to play with players that are more talented than him. And that's not the case with guys that might be a little bit more talented than Patrick, but are more focused on trying to get their own game going rather than the team as a whole. So I think he was a really good pickup for the Toronto Raptors because players like that we'd get on the buyout market aren't necessarily going to help the team. You know, they might be a bit more talented and might be able to score a little bit more, but it's similar in the vein of Norman Powell when he forces his offense. He's a negative on the court, despite the fact he might be scoring or whatever. You know, because he's just trying to tag too much. He'll turn over the ball. At least that was the case for Norm last season. You know, and that's the type of mindset these guys have. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, they're trying to fight their way into the league, but yeah, Patrick McCaw knows how to play within an offense, and, you know, similar to Lorenzo Brown. You know, Lorenzo was great on defense, but on the offensive end, it looked like at times he was trying to force it a bit, and it would be a negative. It'd be a negative for the Raptors, and Patrick McCaw doesn't seem to be doing that. So I want to give him some credit. Hopefully he can knock down a few threes, but that remains to be seen. Chris Boucher also played fine. You know, had some good defense, hit a three. Love to see Boucher hit those threes, had a couple blocks. I want to see Boucher get a chance to run some proper minutes. I'm sick of this garbage time for Boucher. He always does pretty well in it. I want to see him get a shot in the proper rotation for a stretch of 3 games. That's my only request to Nick Nurse, you know, and improve the offense a little bit. But yeah, regardless, let's swing it straight into the segments tonight. Why you do him like that? Play of the day. It's got to go to Danny Green for hitting all of those corner threes in the third quarter. That was absolutely, honestly, the why you do him like that. Kawhi, you got to do the Memphis Grizzlies like that, Toronto. That was a sin. That was a mockery. These poor Memphis Grizzlies. That third quarter was savage. It was savage. Even DeLon Wright was cooking. Man, I forgot to talk about DeLon Wright. I got to be a bit more positive with DeLon Wright. He's playing very well ever since I've been calling him out. So shout out to DeLon. Big ballin', 9 points for him tonight. But the whole team was really cooking. I was really impressed, especially that third quarter. Awesome game to be seen. But not all plays can be the Kawhi you do him like that play of the day. And some just make you say, oh, geez. And tonight, the OG's play of the day. Let's go into Pascal Siakam. He had this play where he had this crazy old spin, in the lane, then did it up and under, spin again, and did a layup underneath the rim. He looked a bit out of control, but Pascal Siakam's footwork and all that, he kind of looks out of control at all times, but you can tell he's always got his grip on the ball and he'll never lose it. So shout out to Pascal Siakam for going all over the place. He was in multiple spin cycles underneath the rim and got 2 points out of it. So that play certainly made me say, oh, geez. But worked out nonetheless. And finally, the infamous DeMarre Carroll Gold Star Award. And tonight, it's going to the Memphis Grizzlies' health. This team is very underrated, so to speak, in terms of talent. Marcus Gasol has been a superstar player for the past however long. He's kind of regressed a little bit as the NBA's changed a little bit, but he's adjusted with a three-point shot. He's a very good player. I know last season everyone wanted us to trade for him, including us. But regardless, Marcus Gasol is a very, very talented guy. Mike Conley, one of the most underrated point guards in the league, didn't have the greatest night last night, but still a very strong player. Kyle Anderson, very, very talented guy. A bit, so they call him slow-mo, but a little bit has a big contract, but still a strong player. Garrett Temple showed he's a strong player. Everyone, they have a lot of guys that are pretty good. Jackson Jr., he's a solid guy. He led the way for the Grizzlies last night with 16 points, 9 rebounds, obviously a top pick last season. JaMychal Green, all these guys, they got some talent on this roster, and in theory they should be better, but they just get dealt the worst deck of cards in terms of injuries on a continuous basis. It's the reason that they got the 4th pick last season. This season, once again, they were very strong. They were right in the middle of the pack of playoff teams this season so far with in the Western Conference, which is seriously impressive. But unfortunately, Marcus Gasol's been in and out of the lineup. The team just cannot stay healthy. And unfortunately for the team, the grit and grind Grizzlies, it seems like that their days are over, especially with all the injuries they've been having. But they're a strong organization. I'm sure they'll figure it out. But it's just unfortunate. DeMarre Carroll Gold Star is going to the injury luck. We've dealt with it. They've dealt with it to probably a more extreme basis. So it's unfortunate, but that's how it goes, and it sucks. I want to give the Grizzlies some credit for having maintained a strong team, a strong organizational culture, despite the fact they just dealt the worst deck of cards in terms of injury luck. So that sucks. Regardless, you guys are the best for making it this far. Check out the Twitter, the Instagram, all that cool stuff. I'm just realizing now that I forgot a comment of the day. That'll be back in next podcast. I apologize for that. Anyways, Raptors been playing well. Excluding that Boston game, things have been looking good. Hopefully the 3-point shots remain consistent. Anyways, I've rambled on way too much. I'm signing out. Cheers.